In our previous lectures, already we have discussed regarding Indian classical music and Indian classical dances. And in this lecture, we would like to discuss Indian classical painting, which we would trace to Indus civilization. So the epoch of Indus Valley civilization was one of the elegant urban culture. But since the superstructures have not survived, no murals have come down to us. The Indus epoch also may have had extensive mural painting for the painting on the pottery that has come down to us in evidence shows maturity and range from vigorous realism through rhythmic stylization to strikingly expressive abstraction. Then the earliest paintings of Ajanta may date back to the 4th century before Christ and the latest up to 8th century. The spirit of the compassionate Buddha is their inspiration. The Jataka tells elaborated the vicissitudes of these incarnations, and the Ajanta artist painted them in sinuous line and sensitive color. City, countryside, and forest, man and women of every type, fauna and flora, all are mentioned in these murals, since the brass and chisel accompanied the message of peace. When Buddhism radiated to the rest of Asia, Ajanta became a fountainhead of Asian painting and murals with the clear stamp of styles that we could found at present, as we are witnessing in Sigiriya in Sri Lanka, Bamiyan in Afghanistan, in many places along the old Silk Route to China, in Korea, and in Honju in Japan. In India itself, the mural tradition continued through, though with less momentum, in Chalukyan Badami in the 6th century and Pallava Pannamalai in 7th century, Pandyan Sitanavasal in 9th century, Cholo Tanjore in 12th century AD, Lepkasi of Vijayanagar 16th century AD, and the murals of Kerala of various dates reaching to the middle of the 19th century. Meanwhile, painting had come down from the extended mural surface to the miniature dimensions of the manuscript, originally on palm leaf, later on paper. The miniatures of Pala period in Bengal during 10th and 11th centuries AD conserve the census line of Ajanta, but there is a rapid decline now, and the line becomes brittle and angular. It is this style that spread to Western India and is seen in numerous illuminated manuscripts, the bulk of them being Jain texts of the period from the 12th to the 15th centuries. but a wind of change begins to blow during the latter half of the 15th century and the first quarter of the 16th century. So, the very development made by the Zen style of murals and they are spread into Western India that we will discuss in our next upcoming lecture in detail. But hereby, in response to the lyricism of poems like the Basant Pilas, which is means the dalliance in spring, then Bihara's Shaura Panchasika, the 50 stanzas on stolen love. Besides that, the Laura Chandra, the romance of Lorik and Chandra, the line again becomes subtly colored lustrous. The Indian miniature stabilizes a fine pictorial style even before the advent of the Mughals. Though the imperial court of Akbar was headed by artists from Persia, Mughal painting is not a provincial school of Persian painting. The latter retreats into a paradisiacal world of romance, while Akbar is interested in contemporarity in history in the making. The organization of the studio and its working also brought about a rapid indigenization of the alien items. Akbar recruited a very large number of Indian artists. Each painting was most often a cooperative effort of Indian and Persian artists, one man doing the drawing, another the coloring, a third the details. The indigenization received further momentum when Akbar commissioned the translation and illustration of Indian mythologies and texts like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. It is mostly at a strand in the Mughal atelier who became the court painters of the Rajput princess. But while Mughal painting was elitist, reflecting imperial pomp and circumstance, Rajput painting presented in line and color the great myths and legends of the land, the story of Ram, of Krishna, of the Bhagavat and the Gita or Gita Govinda, of the many states in the plains of Rajasthan who needs special mention. The style of Kutha painting anticipates by nearly 80 years the primitivism and virility of European favorites like Donier Rousseau. That of Kishankar painting manages the perfect picturization of the poetry of Radhakrishna's story. It is in the small principalities of Himalayan valley set up by interred Rajput warriors from the plains and many centers came off, of which Basoli is unique for its intensity of expression, Kulu of Himachal Pradesh for its closeness to the folk style, and Kangra also in Himachal Pradesh for its romanticism and large output. A decline followed the close of the Rajput phase with the strong presence of the West in British era. Western academicism became popular, mostly self-taught in the case of a pioneer like Ravi Varma, through institutional training in case of others. The revivalist school headed by Abhinendra Nath Tagore, one of the son of let Gagendranath Tagore, so was nationalist in inspiration, but its pictorial achievement was weak and sentimental. The four pioneers of modern painting in India are Gagendranath Tagore, who tried out every techniques and style, Amrita Shergill, who integrated the pictorial idiom of the West and the Indian vision, Jamini Roy, who discovered the virility of the folk tradition and modulated it in many ways, and Rabindranath Tagore, who demanded for paintings, music's autonomy and independence from factuality, and thus gave a character for free variation on naturalism, abstraction, and expressionism, and one of the renowned modern painter of modern India is undoubtedly the great artist and painter, the late Maqbul Fida Hussain or M.F. Hussain. And when we are discussing about the very tradition of painting as regarding the Western Indian school of relating to the Jain text that we would like to discuss in brief. The Western Indian school of Jain palm leaf painting was treated more kindly by history. It flourished under the patronage of Jain merchants and shipbuilders of Gujarat, whose wealth permitted them to fill the libraries with sacred texts. The style is flat and decorative. Its early palette was generally restricted to simply reds, yellows, some blue, gold, black, and white. The vigorous quality of the drawing line is its most distinctive virtue, though even that remained formalized. So also, during that period, we found the paintings featured giant saints, gods, and patrons, more narrative, and to make wider use of foliage, animals, and elaborate architectural settings. The gradual acceptance of the Persian or vertical format is particularly noticeable in the development of Rajput miniatures as they evolved out of Western Indian art. An example is what is believed to be the late 15th century manuscript from the Uttar Pradesh area of north central India illustrating a love romance still popular today, the Laura Chandra. So also we found some other developments like the pioneer scholar who presented about the tradition of Rajput painting was Anand Kumar Swami, who divided the tradition and style into two distinct schools based upon areas or provinces. These are the Rajasthani from the central plains and the Pahari from the Himalayan foothills. So, the Gita Govinda, written by the 12th century good poet Jadab, was a favorite with Rajasthani painters because it deals exclusively with the romantic exploits of Radha and Krishna in a pastoral acting. It is essential for the appreciation of Indian miniature painting to realize that while Mughal art was basically realistic, Rajput painting was like Hindu literature, consistently symbolic and suffused with poetic metaphor. One might relate this quality to the Hindu and Buddhist concept of Maya. Since all life is an illusion, art, which is an interpretation of life, is valid only as a vehicle for deeper hidden meaning. Indeed, the art of painting itself, by its very nature, as a visual illusion, is symbolic to the Rajput artist. All men are symbols and all nature is symbolic. When he painted the figure of a woman, her appearance would duplicate that of other women in the picture, and they in turn were symbolic of all femininity. So, the most striking manifestation of Indian art, the Ragamala paintings. Ragamala means garland of melody or mood. It refers to a particular type of miniature painting in which poems dealing with musical sentiments are illustrated by representation of specific human situations. So, in that context, we would like to discuss the early Rajasthani style, which shows some affinities to the Laura Chandra imagery, is marked by a stark simplicity. Its bases are defined by rectilinear planes of vivid red, yellow, green, and black. The flat open space are modified by superimposed figures like animals, horns, and trees, which disguise the composition's geometric austerity, reminiscent of folk art. A Chaura Panchasika illustration depicting the hero and heroine Pilan and Champavati is thought to have been painted in Uttar Pradesh between 1525 and 1570 AD. So, also another major development we found regarding the Kota style of Rajasthan is cruder and somewhat exaggerated. Exaggerated, it features buildings which are architectural freaks. They appear not only out of square but even unresponsive to gravity elements of the landscape such as violence loom largely out of scale and are lost exaggerated textures. This delightful, easily identifiable mood is well represented by Raja Umed Singh of Kota. The very painting is itself named as Raja Umed Singh of Kota shooting tiger. Another rational style evolved at Kishangarh, some 60 miles northwest of Bundi. A typical miniature gives us a startling portrait of Radha, which is believed to be also a portrait of the Kurdish poets Banithani. An usual feature of Kishangarh painting created at the height of the style from about 1757 to 1770 is their large size, which may reach 18 inches or more. So, also, we found occasionally high quality is found in 19th century Rajput art. Such paintings as lovers or a kiss at court comes from a minor court in state of Mebar and is attributed to the artist Choka. It is startling not only for its handsomely orchestrated color but also for its erotic composition and also the first identified Pahari style of painting that also belong to the Himalayan hill states. In particularly the Basoli manner is characterized by a flat use of bold, intense color and distinctively aggressive profile. From Basoli, it spread to the hill states of Kulu, Mandi, Chamba, Gular, and elsewhere. Basoli painting, now as presented in London Art Museum, that illustrated a scene from the Rasamanjari of Bhanudat shows well the characteristics of the style. The regally dressed hero and heroine in guise of Radha and Krishna are displayed against a flat red background and an ornate pavilion. The painting's rich color scheme approaches the intensity of a Cremosi enamel. The use of dark, iridescent fragments of beetle wings in the jewelry is a Basoli trademark. Another picture common to a group of Basoli paintings of the late 17th century, though not seen here, is like ornaments on the base of pavilion, one of the most renowned sets of Pahari paintings is the series known as Siege of Lanka, which illustrates the various activities of Ram and his animal allies before Lanka, the fortress of the domain, demon Ravan in Sri Lanka. Prior to the climatic battle of the Ramayana and the rescue of kidnapped Sita. A number of these unusually large paintings are known. Some of them are half finished works, while others are only drawings. They are inscribed on the rivers with the text of the great epic poem. So it is thought that they were designed to be displayed to an audience while the text was read aloud. So, also, would like to discuss some other important developments and in particularly relating to the hills of Kangra. So, in hill state of Kangra in 1765, a royal patron was born who would establish the outstanding school of painting in the Punjab hills in the 18th and 19th century during the reign of Raja Sansar Chandra. The art of miniature painting in Kangra was brought to its zenith. Its most flowering is believed to have occurred between 1780 and 1805, with a second important phase from 1810 to 1823. Sansar Chand ascended the throne at the age of 10 and soon showed an active interest in painting, a fact documented by miniatures depicting the boy inspecting paintings with his friends and retainers. The subject matter of Kangra miniatures showed the cult of Krishna to have been a passion with Sansarchan. That is understandable in the context of Rajput society where arranged marriages were the norm and when romance in the Western sense of the word was unknown. The myth of Krishna's dalliance with the gopis and especially with Radha, a married woman, became a logical outlet for pent up emotions. A similar phenomenon is seen in the literature of courtly love in early medieval Europe, and another that of Kangra style. The Kangra style was to have considerable influence on the art of the remote state of Garhwal. There in more austere landscape than that of most other hill states, a style of painting had continued without distinction from the time of the arrival of several Mughal artists in the middle of the 17th century. A little more than 100 years later, with the arrival of artists perhaps from Gular, a distinctive Garhwal school emerged with Kangra overtones. With the death of Sansar Chandra in 1823, the true inspiration for the Kangra style also expired in 1829. Sansar Chandra's son and successor Anirudh Chand retreated south to Theri, Garhwal to avoid marrying his daughters to Sikhs, and a new Garhwal school emerged, producing paintings in a warning Kangra style up to 1860s. One intriguing influence on Indian folk art of the European presence appears in the paintings created at Kali Temple in Calcutta in the second quarter of 19th century. These simple calligraph paintings were rapidly executed on thin sheet of paper and sold to pilgrims For pennies, the colleague had at least not only adopted the technique of transparent English watercolor to create the illusion of rounded volumes, but occasionally depicted European subjects and events. But even these modest artworks ultimately fell victim to the imported industrial revolution, caused by being supplanted by woodcasts, woodcast, and finally in the 20th century by cheap lithographic prints. So here I would like to complete our valuable discussion and this lecture on Indian classical painting, which we traced from the Indus Valley civilization, from the very pottery that was designed in that artistic way. So thereby we imagined and predicts that the Indus Valley civilization people definitely were having depth and knowledge in painting. So from that we trace to the Ajanta arts, then those development of painting in the Chalukyan period and Pallava period and Pandya period, and also during the Cholas and the Satavahanas. So also among the Pala rulers of Bengal, then how it spread to Western India, that Rajput painting, Pahari painting, and also in particular we have discussed the Kota school, the Kulu, Kangra school, and also the modern classical painters such as Abhinendranath Tagore, Gangendranath Tagore, Amrita, Shergill, Jamini Roy, and finally the most recent modern painter of India who created a worldwide sensation and was let Makbul Fita Hussain or M.F. Hussain. So hereby we would like to complete our lecture on Indian classical painting.